the recording. I am going to record this so that Sandra can share it later with whoever she decides she needs to share it with. Pull this up.
Kathy's there. We'll start in a few minutes. You said Pastor Ron is here?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in about a minute or two, we'll start. I want to open up with a prayer. Pastor Ron, if you don't mind, if you would lead us in prayer. You hear his audio?
You ready for prayer now?
Yeah. Oh, look at you in your car. Look at you.
He's all serious. You ready for me?
That's a picture, of course.
Oh, okay.
I was like, he's not moving.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a picture. That's a good one, though.
All right. So you ready for prayer?
Yes.
All right, Father, in the name of Jesus, how we thank you and we praise you for this time of gathering. Thank you for prospering our efforts. Thank you for giving us guidance and clear understanding for effective voting and effective knowledge and understanding. And we just give you glory and honor, oh God, that you are yet God. And regardless of how these elections turn out, you will continue to grant us wisdom how to conduct ourselves individually and collectively for the favor of your people. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 All right. I'm going to bring up the presentation. I have to keep an eye out for new people joining too. Oh yeah, somebody's in the lobby. I just took care of that one. Okay. Have another person joining.
Okay. Oh, while she's opening it up to them,
Tipco. That's who joined.
Okay. So just want to say welcome to everybody. Greg and I want to welcome each of you here. We found it necessary to discuss the matter as thanks to Kim, she was saying that she would like for a ballot party to be hosted. So we decided to do it via Zoom. So thank you, Kim, for the idea. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be talking about the propositions and give some suggestions. You know, you guys are all grown and you vote your own way, but we just want to have some dialogue and some discussion. And I wanted to say thank you guys for being a part of the process, because our votes really matter. So again, just thank you. And that's all I wanted to say to open up. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Definitely something that Moss has really been heavy on her heart about us understanding and really being informed voters. You know, we also know that it's really, really important to vote locally, but we definitely need to make sure that we understand the propositions that are before us. Oftentimes, the language of these propositions can become very convoluted, and we just need to make sure that we understand what's going on. I was actually examining one of the propositions today, and you know, it's about 25 pages long if you look at all the text, and most people aren't going to examine that 25 pages of text. So hopefully with this dialogue, we can really glean and get some really good understanding to what we are voting yes and no for. So thank you all for taking the time and being here with us.
Okay, so we want to just go down this list really quick so we can get into these propositions. We want everybody to introduce themselves, just briefly, who you are, your chair, and if you're registered to vote. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, the focus of the discussion. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we just want to know, do you vote, and what was your experience growing up? Were you taught how the vital importance of voting, or you guys didn't discuss it at all in your home? What was the conversation like in your home growing up in reference to voting? And at what age did you begin to vote? And how do you feel about voting? Is it important to you, and what motivates you? So go ahead, I'll let Tish start since we're right here. Tish can start, go ahead.
is that, 9? Okay. Well, they don't have that much experience. When I was young, voting, my parents thought it was important. I believe the first time I voted, my parents took me with them, but I don't remember too much interaction after that because I didn't vote for a long time until maybe about the last 10 years I started voting
Okay.
again.
Okay. Melanie?
Yeah.
Same ditto.
Okay, go ahead.
And
Greg.
Great.
Greg Pitts.
Oh, for me, I'm sorry, yeah. So definitely, yeah, I'm absolutely registered to vote. I've been registered to vote since I was 18 years old. I've never missed an election. I don't know how important it was kind of made in my household, but I just know that my mom and my relatives always voted. So I just knew it was a thing that you did. You know, you definitely voted. You know, there was no time that I didn't vote or that it wasn't something that was always in the forefront. It was just like as important as going to college. It wasn't this thing that's, you know, that my parents said that you have to do it. It was just more so like, okay, when the time comes, you do it. And that's just more so kind of how I grew up. I answered the question about my first day, my age. I was 18 years old. I think the first person I voted for president was Bill Clinton. And I definitely understand the importance of voting, especially now that I've gotten involved at the local level. I know that voting for local officials is extremely important. And for me, it is as important as voting for the federal things. So definitely. And what motivated me to vote? Just the atmosphere in my household and my family was you vote, you know, and you don't not vote. What is at stake when you don't vote? Your voice is at stake, or your power to leverage, you know, your power is at stake, and you kind of lose power when you don't vote, I believe. And what do you mean? What's on your ballot? As far as, I think we'll get to
propositions, measures, initiatives.
yeah, definitely all of the propositions, everything that's here, that's pretty much on everybody else's. And I guess we'll get into that a little bit more once we hit the propositions up.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Go ahead, Sharon.
Myself, I've been a registered voter since I was 18 years old. My very first presidential election was Jimmy Carter, so yes, I'm old. But I learned from my grandparents probably more so than my parents about voting, listening to them discuss the issues on the ballots. And then back during the 60s, watching all the civil rights movement activities in the media. So I was very excited about the opportunity to start taking part in the process. And I'm pretty passionate about it. Sandra and Kathy will attest to that.
Yes, Lord. Okay, Kim.
All right, I'm Kim. I was registered to vote at the age of 18 because my mom.
Can't hear you, Kim. Speak up. Turn your volume up.
Okay.
Just get a little closer to your device.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I started at 18 because it was mandatory in my house. My mother did not play. She was from Georgia, so therefore we was going to register at 18. She took me to the ballots and showed me how to vote, and I've been voting ever since. And I preach that to my kids right now. We got to vote.
That's right. Very good. Derek.
Yes, I am registered to vote. I've been registered since I was 18 years old. My first election I voted was Ronald Reagan against Walter Mondale when he had Geraldine Ferraro, was running for a presidential ticket at that time. I was heavily encouraged by my parents. They were very politically active, being from Mississippi and Memphis, Tennessee. So they were part of those SNCC, the Student Nonviolent for Change at that time. So we were very motivated to vote. And one of the most important elections that we had growing up, because I grew up in Chicago, was when Harold Washington became the first Black mayor of Chicago. And we actually worked on that campaign. So that was something that was a life-changing event for me as well. And it's like you say, it's very important to vote because you're going to have your best interest at heart in the political arena, so you can start making decisions that's going to benefit you, your community, and your family.
Okay, good. Shannon? Shannon.
Yeah, I'm here. I had to unmute. Good evening, everyone. Shannon Lawrence. So register to vote at 18. Don't ever remember a time when voting was not important. I think every single time my mom growing up went to go vote, she always waited till she got off work because she picked me up from school to take me to the polling place with her. She had me so active. I was moderating Gardena mayoral debates when I was 12, knocking on doors when I was 16, and registering high school seniors to vote when I was in high school, and even resurrected our Young Democrats chapter on my college campus to the point to where we had the second highest voter turnout at the precinct that was located on my college campus. And so it's always been important. It never not has been. And everything is at stake as far as not just your voice, but everything, your livelihood, everything that you can think of is at stake. So that's what it is for me.
Okay. I heard something going off Sharon's at the clock.
No. That's my dinner. The timer just went off. So I'm gonna step away real quick and turn the oven off.
Okay. Pastor Ron, then Trevon.
Myself, okay. I am registered to vote, have been since 18, and I have taken part in just about every election on any level. There were maybe one or two that I did not vote, and it was by choice, just because I chose not to. I vote because it is my privilege as a citizen of the United States. And I do my best to understand all of the measures, the propositions, and the platform of the candidates. Even though I am a registered Democrat, and that was really because I think it just happened because my parents were Democrats, but I vote based upon platform. I vote based upon what makes sense to me for the best, whatever is best for the citizens. So I encourage everybody to vote just by the fact that it is your privilege. And yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Trevon.
Yeah, my screen went black. I don't know what happened.
We can see you.
Oh, really? I can't see anything. I don't know.
Did you minimize it by chance?
Oh, I didn't do anything. It's just black. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, I don't remember. I am registered to vote, but I don't know what age I started voting. I don't remember growing up learning about voting, but I'm trying to teach my kids about voting. So I said, Jalen, if you want to sit down, like after we discuss, I'm gonna sit down with him and go over these measures as well. So, and honestly, I never really read deep into it, but this is the first time, and I'm really, really, really taking it serious.
Very good, good. Okay, Yolanda, Glenn, I'm sorry.
Yes, I am a registered voter. I've been regularly voting now since Obama. Before that, I really didn't care too much about politics. I hated politics, same way I didn't like going to church, like fellowship. But now I've learned in my life, and I have to say, fellowshipping is something I see is very important in politics also. So now I take a whole different stand on politics and my voting. And so I'm very happy to be a voter now. It's real crazy out there. I enjoy it now, and that's where I'm at. So I'm a regular voter now, and I will be until the day I die.
Okay. All right. Let's just do real quick, as we get to these propositions. Who is Cricket?
Hey, Sandra.
Hey. Yep.
It's
you registered.
Eulalia. Yes, I'm a voter, registered voter. I've been voting since I was 18. My mother worked for the registrar recorder's office downtown. So I've been voting since 18. She made sure I started voting, and she would fill out my ballots for me. Now she's not here, so I fill them out myself, and I do my own research.
Very good. Okay, we got Tipco.
That's Sophia.
Hi, my name is Sophia Tipton. I'm a registered voter. I've been voting since I was 18. I was introduced to politics in school, not by my parents, but in school.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
motivated to vote because I want to see change. And I have my daughter here as well. And now we all vote together.
Very good.
Yeah.
Kim,
And my
does Ayana want to say something? Ayana?
Ayana's in the bathroom.
Okay. All right. Everybody said something, right?
No, Yolanda and Letitia.
Yolanda and Letitia, and then we'll get into the ballot.
And Kevin.
Kevin. Why he didn't speak with you? Kevin.
Y'all asked one.
Huh?
Kevin.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right.
Did you
Yes,
vote
go ahead.
at 18?
Okay, hi. My name is Letitia Payne.
Yes, go ahead. Somebody else
And I
talk.
think I started voting when the Clintons were running. So I didn't, my household, my mother didn't, she never encouraged me to vote. So I don't know how old I was when I registered, but I started listening to the Black leaders, you know. So that's why I decided to register and start voting.
Okay, very good. Who else? There's one more.
Kevin didn't get the chance.
Kevin, go ahead.
Yes, I've been working the campaigns with my uncle. He was a councilman in Compton for 4 terms before they had term limits. So he had us out there. So we were introduced to politics at an early age. And as soon as I was of age, you know, I couldn't wait to get out there and vote. And I think I voted just about every election except for maybe 1 or 2. But looking forward to this one. It's going to be the best ever, I think.
All right. Very good. All right. So that's everybody, right?
Yep.
I believe so.
Sandra, this is Kathy Dixon. And I don't remember when I first started voting.
I'm
And I don't
with
remember.
Faye now, so I'm going to give you a call back afterwards.
Kim.
Put yourself on mute.
Oh, what's up to me real quick?
Put yourself on mute, Kim.
Oh, it popped back on.
And that injection was both the trip. I told her, and I did tell her when I
Hold on just a minute. Let me try to mute her. I muted her.
I think
Go ahead.
the host
Kathy.
has the ability to mute everybody.
Yeah. So I know my parents voted, but it was not something that they talked about, and I was born in the South. But that is something that I talk to with my kids, and my kids are all adult ages, and I'm talking to my grandchildren. My youngest grandchild is just turned 20. So this is actually the first time that he'll be voting in a presidential election.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to get into the ballots. Some of them are self-explanatory, and some have a lot of ambiguity, and you know, we are kind of confused. So this is a platform where the person's going to be talking about it, and then we'll have open discussion if we need open discussion. So 14 is the first one, and I believe Greg.
Yeah, that's me, I believe. Yeah. All right, is everybody ready? Are you ready for me, Moss?
Yes.
Okay, so when we talk about Proposition 14, Proposition 14 is pretty controversial, and it has been maybe for the last 10 plus years. Anytime we kind of talk about stem cell research, it gets into a really great area. You know, as far as ethics is concerned, because some of these things and some of the things that go around about stem cell research is that some of those stem cells are going to come from those, from fetuses, that have been aborted. And so oftentimes people don't really like to support this type of research because of the source of those stem cells. And so you have several different types of stem cells. You have the embryonic stem cells that you get from embryos or unborn fetuses. And then you also can get them from fully grown adult cells as well. And so just as we look at this, this proposition, it authorizes $5.5 billion of state bonds for stem cell research and other medical research, training, research facility construction, administrative costs. And it talks about, it also dedicates $1.5 billion to brain-related diseases. So this type of research can benefit things like Parkinson's disease, things like Alzheimer's disease as well. Okay, and so essentially what we're pretty much, if we vote yes on this, we're authorizing about $260 million per year for roughly the next 30 years of this type of money being allocated in this particular area.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say one of the things I know it talks about like Alzheimer's and stuff, but also want to be clear that a lot of that there is stem cell research being done with respect to diseases that really have a direct impact on the Black community almost exclusively. One of them is that we know that diabetes runs rampant in our community. There's a lot of research being done with stem cell research around that, as well as sickle cell, which is exclusively a disease that exists within the Black community. And so, for us and our community in particular, it could prove more beneficial than any other community in the state with the research that's being done.
Absolutely.
So,
Definitely.
Shannon, what would you?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
No, I definitely want to hear Shannon. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. What was the question, Sandra?
No, so I was going to ask you, what would you recommend?
I voted yes on it.
Yeah, I voted yes.
I think that's okay.
Yes on 14.
Who has 15? Greg.
This is Kathy. I have 15.
Kathy. Okay, Kathy, 15.
Yes. On 15 is to increase funding sources for public schools, community colleges, and local government services by changing the assessment of taxes on commercial and industry property. When you look at this, what they want to do is they want to tax, and they call this a split tax, because for homeowners, you have Proposition 13, that is how you get taxed. But for commercial and industry buildings, industry property, you're getting taxed at that same rate. And there is a belief that these people who own these properties can pay more in taxes. And this would help our schools and community colleges and local governments to have additional money. Who is exempt from this? Residential properties, which is you as a homeowner, agricultural land, and they specifically say agricultural land. They don't say anything about the improvements to the land in the agricultural. So farmers feel that although their land may be exempt, their buildings on the land is not. Owners of industry properties with a combined value of less than 3 million are exempt from this. And small businesses from that have personal property tax on, and they call this business equipment, for equipment, machinery, computers, their furniture, the things that they own. So that is exempt if the value is less than $500,000. What is the impact? The impact is they believe that with this tax, there'll be a new funding in the amount of $6.5 billion to $11.5 billion. This will go into effect in the year of 2022. And you'll have some people, like I said, that were exempt, but there are some questions as to whether some of these people will actually be exempt. For example, you'll have some people that own commercial properties, and giving you an example, they own a commercial property that has a value of less than $250,000. But when you look at their overall portfolio, their properties altogether are over 3 million. So they could possibly be included in this.
Want to. Somebody just put something in the chat.
And I'm actually responding to Glenn now.
What was his question?
He was asking about Prop 14 and about if there was research that supports, because there's such a huge amount of money being allocated in that area, along with this, from this proposition, he wanted to know exactly what kind of the research said. So I was replying to him on a couple things.
Did Kathy finish?
Did you finish, Kathy?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Kathy.
Melody has a question.
So
yes, ma'am.
My question is, so if we vote yes, they're going to allocate the funds to businesses that make more money, like hypothetically the franchise of McDonald's, opposed to a small business, somebody making 200,000, right? So it should be yes, right?
So if you vote yes on Proposition 15, that is correct. That the taxes should be on the $1 million businesses and not on the small business. However, And so let me go back, because I said yes, but I was being sarcastic. Let me go back, because in some of this, like I told you, one of the loopholes is a cash poor or a person that owns several properties that are less than $250,000. They could be thrown into this because their portfolio of all the properties they own are 3 million. So is it fair to them to be a part of this or not be a part of this? You have the farmers. You have the farmers that, again, their land is being.
What is the impact on me?
Okay, is that your question? What's the impact on you? The impact on you is if they charge these multi-million-dollar businesses, the impact is probably going to come down to you paying higher for whatever goods and services that they're offering you. So for her example, she said McDonald's, the McDonald's meals may go up. Okay, at the barbershop, the meals may go, the haircuts may go up at the barbershop, because the barbers, some of these small businesses have leases because they don't own the property.
That part is not true. I've seen that commercial. That part is not true. That is rhetoric. That is not true.
Wait. But when you look at it, they have leases that say that they must pay part, some or all of the property tax. It gets lowered down to them. So I'm not talking about closing the business. I'm talking about when the lease says that the property tax, that any increase in property tax must come to them, or if they're paying property tax right now, that this increase is going to come down to them at the small business. And I agree with you. When I saw the commercial, I was like, that can't be true. That's not true. But when I was doing the research and looking at the information, this is part of the information that is out there.
So
now,
let me just kind of address that real quick, if you don't mind,
okay.
Just because for context, and this is strictly for context, okay?
Mm-hmm.
For this proposition ended up on the ballot, the organized labor in particular has been trying to repeal Prop 13 for the last, well, not just labor, but a lot of socially progressive groups been trying to repeal a total repeal of Prop 13 for about the last 20 years, easily the last 20 years. And the reason why is because a great example is not McDonald's. A great example of who this bill really or who this proposition targets is Disneyland. When you think about this realistically, Prop 13 caps your property tax at no more than 2% from the previous year, as long as the ownership of the property doesn't change. We all know that. So when Walt Disney bought all of that land in Anaheim in the 50s, the property tax that Disneyland has been paying comes out to effectively about 0.5% a year increase over the last 40 years, because it got set back to the 1976 rate.
Correct.
Right? When you think about this realistically, how many times have our homes changed ownership? Or better yet, when the economy tanked in 2008 and you had all of those homes going to market, homes that were bought originally for $60,000, $70,000 were now going for $500,000, $600,000, and that triggered a reassessment of the property tax, which means that the property tax on those properties went up. Meanwhile, Disneyland still paid in essence 0.5% more than they did from the year before. When you think about the impact on that, communities like, if there are two really, really poor communities in Orange County, and that's Anaheim and Santa Ana. A big reason why Anaheim is one of the poorest cities in this region is because of Disneyland. Because they haven't changed ownership, they have not realized any real increase in tax revenue. They haven't realized any real increase in tax revenue that could benefit Anaheim, in spite of the cost of living continuing to go up in Anaheim, right? And so when you think about that, and then we think about here in LA County in particular, it's not that extreme, but those extremes exist. Moreover, when you think about the barbershop analogy or the barbershop example, how many barbershops do you know that are not in a strip mall? How many strip malls are you aware of that have a value of more than $3 million? So even those strip mall owners are not going to be impacted by the increase in property tax, because the value of their property just is not that high.
Well, here's the issue I find troubling about Proposition 15. One of the statements in Proposition 15 says is that they want to do this tax reset or this tax assessment based on the fair market value of the property, regardless of whether it changes hands or not.
But they do that anyway. Every single year.
I understand they do that.
No, hold on.
Based on new businesses, they do that. But
No.
based on like the Disneyland, they said that they weren't, the information said it doesn't do that on older properties.
Okay, so
Now correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I read.
You are, well, here's the thing. You're not wrong. You read it wrong.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Every single year, if you look at your property, when the county assessor sends you your property tax assessment, there are two numbers you need to look at. One of them says assessed value of your property, and then it has what you owe for your property tax. If you go back and compare, for every year that you own your property tax did not increase more than 2% in spite of the assessment. Every single year, the county does a reassessment of your property, both commercial and residential. What Prop 15 will do, it says only for commercial and industrial properties valued at over $3 million.
Right.
Just those properties, not even a portfolio, not really, because trust me, you have creative tax people that can figure out a way to make sure that not all your properties end up in the same portfolio so that you don't hit that $3 million threshold. Or frankly, the state legislature, if they want to, they can carve out a piece of legislation to exempt portfolios from that. And so it's only on the individual property. But I digress. That reassessment, it happens every single year. What Prop 13 does is that it caps your assessment at no more than 2%. And it really depends on the county that you live in. So
is that a yes or no? Because y'all thoroughly confused the hell out of me.
That should be a yes, right, Shannon?
I'm voting yes on it. I voted yes.
And Kathy, what do you think?
And Kathy, what you think?
Well, I was voting.
I plead the fifth.
No, the reason
before I started doing the research, I was kind of iffy in between. Okay. And so when I was reading the research, I was like, why am I voting no? Because I would not like for this to go down to the small business person. And I understand everything that he's saying. So I'm going to have to reassess based on what he's saying. But right now, as of today, I was voting no on 15.
Okay.
Thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
Okay, 16. Who's 16?
Who's 16?
That's
Kathy.
me.
That's you.
Kathy, you got a lot.
That's a slam dunk.
Look.
Slam dunk, Kathy. Slam dunk.
Sandra
no
owes
slam
her.
dunk.
I know.
Sandra owes me.
Don't tell her.
You say don't tell her?
Hey, don't tell her.
Okay, Proposition 16 allows diversity as a factor in public employment, education, and contracting decisions. And I'm going to say right off, my vote is to repeal Proposition 209. So I vote yes to repeal Proposition 209. If a vote of no would not repeal Proposition 209, and 209 was on the ballot in 1996, and it got rid of affirmative action programs in public institutions. And we want to reinstitute that because we need it. And today in California, there's 39.4% Californians are Latino. There are 36.5% that are non-Hispanic white. There are 15.55% Asian and 6.5% Black. And we need something to level the playing field so that we can go out and do the things that we want to do. Not that we want to do, that we can do. That they would actually look at us for jobs, for going to school, all of that. So my vote is yes on this. So that is a slam dunk.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else a rebuttal? Comments? Okay, good. 17, that's me. 17 is the restoring right of voters for those who serve their prison terms. So those who have typically been in prison would not be able to vote, but this act right here will restore their right. Well, let me clarify. Tisha's going to tell you the difference between probation and parole. There's a difference. People are confused about probation and parole. Remember, you want to tell them?
Yeah, with parole, of course, that's state and federally ran. So when it comes to parole, their guidelines are different because it is ran by the state and federal. Probation, you can still vote even though you're on probation. The difference with parole, they cannot vote So that's it.
But they can vote
So
after they're on.
this
After, yeah,
restore,
after
this
you get off
restores.
probation. I
Mhm.
mean, after you get off parole, then you can vote. But when you're on probation, you can vote during being on probation.
But not for
But not parole. But yeah.
That's a good
Gary?
clarification for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Okay.
Were you saying something?
No, I got it. I understand what she said. Yeah, I got it.
So it's the completion of their prison term. You know, when people get out of prison, they have to do parole for an additional 3 to 5 years, and they were not able to vote. So this will give them the right to vote, even though they're on parole. They can vote. And I think if you're living in the community, paying taxes in the community, and you're working, you should have the right to vote.
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
So I have a question. Is anybody else screen bouncing like the presentation is moving all over, or is it just ours?
That was me. I'm sorry, Sophia.
Oh,
I was just trying to catch up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Kathy again, 18.
Oh, she working to death.
Whatever, leave her
Kathy.
alone. Leave Kathy alone. Yes. Leave Kathy alone. Don't say nothing to Kathy.
Okay, 18, Kathy.
Proposition 18, primary voting for 17-year-olds amendment. This is to allow your 17-year-olds who will be 18 at the time of the next general election to vote in the primary elections and special elections. And this is especially if they're otherwise eligible to vote. So if they're not eligible to vote, it doesn't matter if they're 17 or 18. But if they're eligible to vote, this would allow your 17-year-olds to be able to vote in the next general election and special elections. What this does is this allows them to start the process of voting before the general election, because the general election is usually, you know, in November, and you have the primary and the special elections all throughout the year. And this gets them used to voting and being able to go out there and look at propositions and everything. The argument against this is that the 17-year-olds are legal minors, and under that definition, they're still considered children. I don't know about y'all, but my 25-year-olds are still considered children. Okay.
Still acting like it.
Still acting like it. Because when I looked at this, it says they're still living at home. Well, they're at home and they're under the strong influence of their parents. Well, yeah, they are. Okay. And it also says they're not conducive to independent thought. Well, that kind of depends. Sometimes they tell me no. Okay. But in order to get our children involved in the voting process, I think we should. And I'm voting for this to allow them to do this, because this allows them to get in the process and be able to put the people on the ballot that they want to vote for in the general election. Nothing hurts you more than to being 18 and able to vote in the general election, and you only have the choice of what everybody else said, and you didn't have a chance to put somebody else on the ballot that you may have wanted to vote for.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions or comments?
No, you know, I definitely agree with Kathy.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm a high school teacher, and students who are about 17 years old are normally seniors at that time, and they're taking you know, econ and gov. And so in their government classes, I mean, this would definitely be something that they're already talking about. It would be nice for them to be able to take what they're learning and put it into action. So I think this is an awesome one. And I already definitely voted yes on this one.
Yeah. Typically, I was a senior in high school, and I didn't turn 18 until the summer. So I wasn't able to vote in the primary that year, but I was able to vote in the general election. So yeah, I agree as well.
Are there any backlash there?
What's the backlash? Anybody know? What would be the backlash?
The backlash is that if the opposition says that they believe that the teachers would have a strong influence on
Teachers
the
and parents.
17-year-old and their parents. That's the
But they're
only
going to have
backlash.
influence on their kids anyway. I do Isaiah's ballot.
Don't tell nobody that.
You know this is being
That's
recorded.
right.
And I do her kids' ballots. Now I take them out to the poll, but I also give them my suggestions. Yeah.
They just asked Mama what Miss Moss voted.
The only thing I was worried about, Kathy, was in the long term, later on, where they try to tie this to something regarding insurance and stuff later. You know how you can finagle stuff because they're minors.
No, this still has nothing to do with insurance, because right now you still have children on your insurance account till they're 26.
Oh, 26.
I'm saying, that's why I was thinking that later might
so it
change.
is 25. No,
I'm just
no,
saying
because
later.
that's a federal
Okay.
thing. That's not a state thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Who's
Okay,
19?
Shannon's 19.
Right, okay. So 19, it changes certain property tax rules. It's a legislative constitutional amendment. So I'm gonna just summarize it because I don't want to read the whole thing. In essence, what it does is that I guess it's better to talk about the background. Right now, there are about 10 counties in the state of California that participate in, it's like a tax exchange program, right? Where if you are over 55 years old and you decide that you want to move to another county, and this kind of ties back into Prop 13 some, right? If you want to move to another county, say you want to downsize, or like the commercial says, I want to move closer to my children, it would allow you to take the property tax that you were paying at your original property and transfer that to a new property without any penalty. So right now, there are about 10 counties that actually have this exchange program. What this will do is that it will make it will actually expand it statewide. So any county, you can go from any county to any county, number one. And two, it will include I think the most important part is that it's going to include wildfire victims, right? So we know we have all these fires, and then people who are severely disabled and probably have to move closer to family and things like that, right? So here's the real impact of it, right? And I'm going to put it as plain and simple as possible. Let's say Sandra bought a house in Santa Clara, and we know where Santa Clara is, right? Let's say she bought a house in Santa Clara 30 years ago for $100,000, because that was a lot of money 30 years ago for a house in Santa Clara. Well, because of Prop 13, remember, her property tax has been capped. So let's say hypothetically now, her property tax, because over the last 30 years, because of the cap, her property tax is about $750 a year. And she's been paying $750, and then $750 plus 2%, and then that plus 2% over time, right? But it comes out about $750 now. But she decides that she wants to move closer to Isaiah, who bought a house in Hawthorne, right? Well, that house in Hawthorne, even though that house in Hawthorne she bought it for $600,000, right? Because remember, she bought it in Santa Clara for $100,000. She sold it, maybe she sold it for $1 million. She's going to buy a house cash in Hawthorne for $600,000, but the property tax assessment on a new homeowner would be maybe $2,500 a year. But because she's able to transfer that property tax, she transfers that $750 property tax on a property that's from before to a house where normally she'd be paying $2,500, she's only paying $750. Right? Now here's the thing. From a very selfish standpoint, let's do it. Makes sense to me. Right. But here's the challenge. Property tax almost exclusively pays for public education, human services, and all of these other things. Yes, our counties rely on property tax in order to pay for basic services for these communities. And then when we think about this realistically for our community, because somebody's going to ask, well, what does this mean for me, for our community? One, if we live in that community that essentially is being gentrified, then there's still a burden on me to make up for that tax revenue that's not coming in by way of property tax, number one. And number two, the reality is that we ain't moving to more expensive neighborhoods. We're not doing reverse gentrification. They're coming to our communities and they're bringing their wealth and their acquired wealth with them to our community. So where Sandra is paying $750 a year in her property tax because she was able to carry it over, Greg still has to pay $1,500. So I want to make it kind of, because the language doesn't say that. But when we think about how it really impacts us, that's how it impacts us, especially in our community. Personally, I voted no on it but But like I said, but like if you are someone who is looking to move or downsize, then it's a great benefit for you.
Mm.
That was the problem.
And you're right, Jared. I didn't think about the value of the property taxes when you move in that community, the effect it'll have in that community. I didn't think about that until you just said that.
Makes it easier to gentrify.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes it a lot easier for them to come in from outside.
You understand the proposition? What they
So you win in both ways. You win in double. So you win in because you sold your property for $1 million, and you transfer that down here. You're paying a high, and you're not paying the tax rate that goes along with the property that you just
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, and the other argument is some people say, "What about the wildfire victims?"
Right.
Fair enough.
They always want to throw stuff in there.
Hold on, fair enough. But let me ask you this: out of the people on this Zoom, how many of y'all know somebody living in a wildfire area?
Sharon and Kathy.
I do. Mm-hmm.
So,
No, it's a wild, but
hold on.
you know, it's a wildfire area, so that's like.
I know someone that actually just lost their home to the wildfire, that creek fire.
Did they have insurance?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, so they're getting new home.
I mean, and I'm not trying to be funny about it, but like to a large extent, that's why you have insurance, right? Because whatever those costs are, I mean, and it may not cover it 100%, but that's also the benefit of living in an area like that is because you want to, like no one forced you to live there, right? So,
right. So Shannon, I might have to walk into the polls to vote on this now because I think I voted yes on that. I haven't mailed it yet. It's downstairs on the table.
It's so hard on some of these. It really is. So thank you guys for doing
Well,
this.
I haven't done it. I haven't done it yet, so now I'm going to mark it up now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's providing some clarity even for me. So I'm glad we're doing it.
All right.
Thank you, Shannon. Next.
20, Shannon.
Yeah, I got 20 also. So 20 is back to some criminal justice reform / civil rights. In essence, what 20 does is that it reclassifies a number of crimes that are considered misdemeanors, and it reclassifies them to what we call wobblers, or will be outright felonies. A wobbler, for context, is it's a crime where the judge has the authority to determine if the person is tried as a misdemeanor or as a felony, you know, just based on the context of the crime. The argument for the people who are in support of this is that there are some crimes that are on the books as misdemeanors, like sodomy. It was a couple of other ones, but like, you know, some pretty heinous ones. I'm not giving that. Yeah, there are. The challenge is that I think the challenge that I have personally is the wobbler one, because when you begin to give judges the authority to determine
make that decision,
then naturally, depending on who the judge is, what their experience is, what their previous crimes were, that could impact a lot of things. And then here's the other part to it. For some of these misdemeanors, it will require the collection of DNA. Right. That gets dangerous because, you know, we all got a cousin that might have a shaky past. And next thing you know, they're taking DNA from Lil Pookie and they getting John, right? And even though, and I'm not saying that it's all bad, but I also think that some of these things are going to be disproportionately used in our community. And I think one of the things that's important, it's not on the slide, but I'm a big believer in following the money. And when you look at the people that are supporting this, it's every single law enforcement group in the state of California is supporting this. That's a huge red flag to me. So, go ahead, Sandra, I'm sorry.
I was initially gonna say yes until I saw that part, the DNA part for misdemeanors. I felt that was a bit egregious, and I think that there was some underlying issues. That's what made me decide to do no.
It's a reason to set somebody up. It's an excuse, and it gives them legal excuse to set someone up, especially by color, because that's who they mess with.
Well, you know, and then let's kind of call it what it is, right? I mean, you know, over the hundreds of federal judges that have been appointed, these are all, you know, all of them have been white, right? that will have in those federal courts, they have an impact, and they set precedent for local courts, state courts, because it becomes case law, right? So, you know, there's just so much other stuff happening when it comes down to criminal justice and how they're weaponizing the courts to strip away civil rights, especially for people of color. Well, not even people of color, for Black people, for Black people. That I think we have to really take all of those things into consideration. And granted, as much as I don't, you know, I don't want crime to be happening in my community, but I also don't want unfair sentencing and criminal injustice to happen at the same time.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Shannon.
Oh, okay.
So 21 is yours truly. So I went back and forth reading the rhetoric around this, and I came to the conclusion that it's no. I'm just gonna say that right now. Basically, yeah, the restrictions around rent control. This proposition, if it were to pass, would loosen the restrictions that the state has put in place that actually haven't even had an opportunity to take effect yet during the pandemic. So a lot of people right now are deferring their rent, and it's putting them further and further behind. And once those restrictions are lifted, the landlords could actually evict people. They'd have to go and find a new place to live. If this proposition passes, the rent control goes to the local communities, which would allow them to raise the rents to much higher rates than they would if this proposition doesn't pass. So right now, it was like 5% with a 10% cap. 15% or more, they would be able to charge a new renter within the first 3 years of them renting. And I may not be saying all that right, but I looked at what was in the voters information guide, but then I also went to the website for no on Proposition 21, and it actually spells it out much clearer there. So the answer is no. It also would allow them to create local renter control boards, and we don't want to put that in the hands of the local communities. It's much better if it stays at the state level and follows the guidelines that the state has set forth. And Shannon, if you want to add anything to that, you're welcome.
No, I just want to say that I think one of the things that's important is that this proposition is much like Prop 15. It's not targeted to the mom and pop landlord, right? It's not even targeted to, it's targeted towards these large corporate, and corporate landlords, right? Who when housing prices started going up, because, you know, hey, I'm a renter, right? And I remember when I was looking for my apartment, literally the price fluctuated from day to day depending on the day that I checked on the website, because your rents are based on market rate for the moment. And so what was happening was that, and this was before the governor signed that law also last year. So what was happening was, when home values were jumping 30% in a month, rental prices was going up by 30% as well. So what the governor did, he did put those restrictions in statewide, but I'll say this. I know the no folks are saying vote no on it, but look at who is funding, look at who's funding it, right? Because at the end of the day, would you fund a proposition that will hamper your profits?
Yeah.
No.
No, of course not.
Right. So you got to look at who's funding this stuff, because the other part to it, in a place like LA in particular, right, where you do have seniors and you have people with disabilities and you have people on fixed income and people on government assistance that are relying on public officials to actually set reasonable rental prices and rates. yes, they will have the ability, the local will have the ability to increase rents, but they also have the ability, one, to cap rents to a rate lower than what the state has said, and they'll have more authority when it comes down to punishing landlords or imposing on landlords that are violating the local law. So those local rental boards will have the authority to do what's best for current renters in the community, as opposed to the state. And so, I mean, and that's a personal choice, but I did want to provide like the other side to that.
Right.
Right. Because
So
Sharon
Sherry says no, and Shannon, you saying yes?
I did vote yes on it.
I'll add that the Governor Newsom says no on 21.
Nicole has joined.
Well, and part of you got to understand too, like from a political standpoint, the governor wants to run for either U.S. Senate or president in 4 years. Yes. The last thing that he needs, I'm telling you right now, the last thing he needs is for his opponent to come out and say, Governor Newsom, as state of California, he put in laws that were so bad that even the voters overturned it. Because that would be my first campaign ad against them. So that's a huge reason why he's against it, is because it's to protect his political legacy, not because it's a smart decision.
And what about, and Bernie Sanders says no too. I haven't had time to research all this, so I'm literally looking stuff up as you guys are talking and trying to follow along. Right. And so that's just what I saw real quick. It's him and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I don't really know why Bernie said no to.
Well, I went to the no on Prop 21.org site just to see what they had versus what the yes said. So in my opinion, it's a no, but.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on. I'm sorry. Bernie Sanders says yes on 21.
Okay.
Okay. So now you guys have varying opinions. So now you can just go do some more reading if you haven't voted yet, and do a little bit more if you still unclear. So that's why we're having this here, to have some dialogue and provide some clarity and some dialogue so that we can see, because these things are very confusing. So we thank you, Sharon and Shannon, for that.
Thank you, and Nicole.
And Nicole, 22. Who has that one?
I have 22.
That's Nicole.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I mean, these next few, 21, 22, and 24, it's like everybody wants the same thing. It's just like, does the proposition accomplish it, right?
Right.
So on 22, for the ride sharing, definitely no on 22. Definitely no on 22. Because ride sharing is not going anywhere, number one. You know, the commercials and all the ads make it seem like you have to save ride sharing and it's going to go away if you don't vote yes on this thing. That is not happening at all. And I was on a call with somebody in Silicon Valley right before this about, other work. And I asked him about it and asked what he was hearing about it. I said, is it fair for me to tell this, I told him I was coming to this. Is it fair to say that no matter what, ride sharing is not going anywhere? And he's like, yes. There's too many people with interest in that whole structure. They're not going to just walk away from it. And so it's about whether they institute the regulations that California has already asked them to do, right? And the driver protections and stuff, or if they get to write their own set of regulations and things that they say are going to help drivers. And so that's what 22 is. The Uber and Lyft wrote the proposition, paid for the proposition, or paying for all the promo, so that they can write their own rules for themselves that works for how they want to spend their money. But in reality, voting no on it will require them to follow AB 5, the law that was already passed that they should be following, and they keep trying to fight. What's that?
Can I say something?
You're looking at Shannon in the middle.
I'm just talking as a ex-Uber driver.
Yeah.
Well, if you vote no, that means that basically these companies have to hire you, and you have to work for them, which is no problem. But when I needed extra money, I was able to go on that app, work for 2 days, and I did whatever time I wanted to. It was freedom, And also I was able, if I only needed $200, hypothetically, I was able to go on there, work for a day or two, make the $200, and I didn't have to go back there. I didn't have to follow the rules. I didn't have to get their insurance. I didn't have to do any of that. Now, if you vote no, what they're trying to do is make you an employee. So that means that if I was already working for someone else and I wanted to just go in there and supplement my income just a little, work a couple of days, I can't do it now because they would have to hire me and they would give me times when I needed to work and I wanted to work.
Right.
So,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying also.
So they're infringing on your independence.
So yeah,
They're not. They're threatening to.
Well, so remember I said follow the money, right? You look at the people who are opposed to Prop 22 are mostly labor unions.
Right.
Why would labor unions be opposed to Prop 22? Because if these drivers become employees, what does organized labor want to do?
They want to unionize.
Grab dudes.
They want to unionize them. But why do they want to unionize gig economy workers? Why do you think they want to unionize them?
Taxes.
Nope, because they could never unionize taxi drivers.
That's not.
Nobody wants to do that. That's needed to know, Shannon. That's major history.
Right. So they could never unionize taxi drivers, and I worked for SEIU for years, right? And so I do believe I do believe in a unionized workforce. I believe in all of that, right? But I also think that not every single industry needs to be unionized, and not every industry. And there is a place in our employment tapestry in America where independent contractor work is valuable and adds more value to our society than takes away, right? You know, and personally in 2017, I drove for Lyft. Things got tight. I was able to go out on the weekends. I mostly stayed around downtown, driving drunk college kids back and forth from downtown clubs. Worked for me. But the funny part about it was that
Reclaiming my time. So
hold on. Wait, but I'm not finished.
Because I wasn't done with what I was saying, and so I just want to make sure.
Okay, my goodness. Let's be civil now.
Oh, that is civil. That's very civil.
Yes, right, because I was not done with the talking points, please and thank you. So I want to make clear that flexibility is critical. I completely understand, and I believe, you know, they want us to fill in the blanks, right? They put this proposition out there. They want us to fill in the blanks about what yes would mean and what no would mean. But nobody in that community, nobody at Uber, Lyft, or any of their investors want to deal with employees. They don't want the infrastructure to turn to employment. And that's why they've been fighting the law, right? And so if we vote no on this proposition, then they will continue the fight. Nothing will change in the short term because they'll just keep fighting. They have a lot of money to fight that legal battle. So status quo will remain for a while. And then it's really about the driver stepping up and saying, we want to maintain our flexibility, and here's what it's going to have to be a negotiation. You know, gig work and all the way that all this ride sharing works didn't exist. And so it just needs to be restructured for all stakeholders. And I'm saying that when I do this research and am saying that no is the way to protect the interest of workers, that means to me that protects your flexibility to have multiple gigs and not punching a clock. It is probably going to mean, you know, the spirit of AB5 is that there is some control, that there might be some penalties for certain behaviors or something like that. You know, I'm not saying that it's going to be as free flowing as it is, but I'm also someone that, you know, and I'll wrap up. I'm sure my time is coming to an end. I'm someone that did not start driving myself around until I was 22. So I very much understand, like, you know, what it means to be able to get a car from your phone in 5 minutes. You know, I don't want that to change for anybody. But I'm also someone that's written a very long letter to Uber about feeling unsafe in their vehicles. and got no response and nobody cared. I had some crazy stories from this ride sharing, situation. So it does need to change. Just know that, the reality is people supporting the no position want the flexibility to be maintained for drivers. That's not an issue.
Thank you, Nicole.
Well, actually, if you want to maintain flexibility, you will vote yes on it.
Yes.
Because if Prop 22 passes, it actually invalidates AB 5. So.
But I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that voting no requires a renegotiation of all of this. So they're not going to just be like, you're all employees and that's the end of it. If Uber and Lyft don't want that, then that's just not what's going to happen.
No. AB 5 makes them employees already. And here's the thing. It actually doesn't impact only Uber and Lyft. It impacts all independent contractors. So for instance, those of us that do political work, those of us who do political work, we used to be able to just hire a door knocker for a day. Or if you have an office, hire a high school kid to come in and work the office from 8 to 12 or whatever, like to answer the phones. Because they're considered independent contractors, you can't do that anymore.
I hear
so
go ahead.
Let him finish.
No, man, you can't. I mean, like when I tell you this past year, campaigns have changed because of AB 5, and a lot of other industries that rely on independent contractors to be able to get the work done changed because of AB 5. What this does, it does carve it out it makes AB 5 invalid for gig economy workers, but it also sends a notice to the state legislature that AB 5 was a bad idea because it wasn't thought through. And then let's put this in real context. AB 5 came about because of two industries, organized labor and insurance. Organized labor wants to unionize the workers. In the insurance industry, they want to be able to force these drivers to buy higher insurance policies, which is why they fought. And basically, they paid off a lot of these elected officials to vote for it. If you go back and listen to these elected officials, I'm gonna tell you something, like real talk. And this is when I realized that it was bad. There is a state legislator from South Los Angeles who literally heard one of their consultants, I was in the room when a constituent said, Assembly member, I'm gonna leave his name blank. I live in View Park. When I wanna go to the airport, I can't get a cab to come to my house to take me to the airport, and I don't have public transportation. There's no buses, there's no trains. At least I know Rodney down the street who's driving for Uber will get me to the airport safely. You know what that legislator said to this woman? Yeah, but Rodney don't have the right insurance policy. Whoa. To me, that is that lets me know that you're so out of touch. And that's what's happened with a lot of these politicians. They become so out of touch with what their constituents actually need that they pass bills like AB 5 that they help big corporations, but they don't help people. So
I hear you. I understand. I wasn't trying to say what you can and can't do as an independent contractor or, as an employer of contractors. What I'm saying that you can do, even with a no on Proposition 22, is negotiate for driver protections, driver rights, and separately driver flexibility. I'm saying that the reason that AB 5 is not being followed now for rideshare companies is because they have the money to fight it, and they will continue to do that. And so saying no to proposition is saying, come to the table with something that truly does work for everybody. And it's going to require some thinking out of the box, but I think we need to hold our ground instead of just being like, okay, we'll accept the law that these companies wrote for themselves. Bernie Sanders and the LA Times say no on 22 for whatever that's worth.
Okay, very good. We have to move on because we have 3 more before we end, and I think we're done. Ride sharing and by 8.
Okay, so we got 23, 20, 24, and 25. Who's got
Shannon
23?
has 23. Shannon.
Okay.
All right, 23, real quick. It does private owned dialysis clinics, DaVita, companies like that. It will require 4 things. It will require, if passed, it will require that a physician or physician assistant be on premises at all times when a patient is being treated. It will require that that it will require data be sent up to the federal and state government. It will require that if a clinic is going to close down, that they notify the state, and the state must give them permission to close down. And it was one more thing. Oh, and it prohibits discrimination of anyone that needs care based on race, gender, or their ability to pay.
Ability to pay.
Yeah, so the people, so follow the money again. The people that put this on the ballot are SEIU, the United Healthcare Workers. Why? Because they represent workers of dialysis clinics, and because in the end, what they're going to do is going to force them to hire more staff that they're just going to try to unionize. Supporters of it are saying that in some cases the conditions are so bad in these dialysis clinics that they need the extra supervision, and they need those provisions to make sure that the clinics don't shut down, and that patients are not being discriminated against, especially in poor communities like South Los Angeles. Opponents to Prop 23 are the big giant corporations, the DaVitas of the world, and companies like that. And they're basically, I don't know if you've seen the commercials saying that if it goes into effect, that, you know, my clinics are going to get shut down and I'm going to die. So
is it a yes?
I voted yes for it.
Voted yes. Yeah.
Because here's the other reality. Let's say DaVita does want to shut down. It's not like there's not somebody else who's going to open up another clinic, because it's a cash cow. It's too much money involved.
That's what I was. Yeah, I thought about that too. Like, they're making too much money. They're not going to shut down.
Thank you, Shannon. 24.
Yes.
Okay, I have 24. I just learned about this not that long ago, so keep that in mind. But it's basically, it's okay. Basically, it has to do with safeguarding consumers' information, and businesses can't extend the hold that they have on personal information. I put yes, just because it safeguards the personal information. There are a couple of, back things that will come up. It's increasing state costs and to make a new state agency to supervise it. So that's going to go to taxes, of course. And overall, just from the little bit that I read, it seemed like it's okay. But Shannon? Because I just got finished reading some of it, but not all of it. The only, like, I saw one loophole where it says legislature can allocate any remaining funds from it for other purposes after they use it to fight consumers' rights in court. Whatever's left over, they can use the money to do what they want. That's one of the things that I saw that was a negative. That's the only thing that I saw so far. I hadn't read all of it.
So there was an article that I read about it. I think it was in the LA Times, and it basically what this law does. You know, when you sign, whenever you do the little disclaimer about privacy or anything electronic that you do. As a Californian, I don't know if you remember, like earlier this year, it became more restrictive for California residents, right? The way the current law is written is that if you are a California resident, your privacy is protected anywhere you go, right?
Right.
What this law will do is, if it passes, it will only protect you while you're in California.
Oh, wow.
And then once, let's say you go to Vegas and you're on your phone, all those privacy protections that you had in California,
they go away.
They go away when you leave the state of California. I voted no on it because of that, because everything else is all the same. Like it actually doesn't add anything new. So here's the thing, and the reason
this is a state-to-state proposition, of course.
No,
so
it's not a state-to-state proposition. It's only in California, but you gotta remember something. The privacy laws in California are more restrictive than any place else in the nation right now.
That's true.
But part of that restriction is that if I opt out, you cannot collect data on me anywhere in the nation. The moment I leave the state of California, now I'm fair game. So you think about it like this with your children. When your children are protected, in California, y'all go to Vegas and they're playing on the PlayStation in a hotel room, they're not protected anymore.
Exactly.
And that privacy is not protected anymore if this passes.
It's kind of sneaky. It's almost like the accepting of the cookies. I think you've seen, I think since July 1st, it pops up when you go to a website and it asks you to accept that they're tracking, that they're using cookies to track you. That's basically, if you say yes to that, then you're basically allowing your information to be harvested.
And so also too, so I was also reading an article as well, Sharon, where it was talking about using a VPN. And so, you know, using the virtual private
network.
And so I've started using that, but there's a cost associated with that.
Right.
So a lot of folks aren't going to want to pay that additional annual or monthly cost to have a VPN to protect their privacy. So that's something else that you can consider, because I believe they have it all anyway. So
yes, they do.
They do.
So
it's sold most of the people out of state. Most of the companies that are using this stuff are already out of state.
Right.
So they already have access to our information anyway.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of misinterpretation going on right
now.
So my company it should be subject to the CCPA, but it's not, because there's so many loopholes in it. And the reason that it's so easy to circumvent is because it only applies to companies that sell your data. So if there's nothing that prevents me from collecting as much data as I want when you visit my website, but as long as I don't sell, I can use that as much as I want, but I just can't sell it. And as soon as I'm selling it as a separate product, then the CCPA kicks in. But that's so, it's so easy to get around, And so that's the reason that when I read the yes versus the no, I would say, as a business owner, I would say a consumer should be voting yes. A consumer should be voting for any more oversight that can be established, because people don't understand enough of what's going on. So we need to keep moving the bar forward on what the protections are. And this is similar to 22 in that the industry kind of like wrote the proposition themselves, right? But on this one, the way that things are, with so many people being locked out of understanding how this all works, we're only going to move forward in the ways that they agree to help us move forward. Like, we're a little bit at their mercy, to be honest, and so I would say, as a business owner, it makes things harder for me for it to pass, but that's what just needs to happen.
So that'd be a no. So that'd be a no?
So I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sweetie.
I'm saying yes.
Okay, 25.
All right, so
thank you, Melody. Go ahead.
Very quickly, Prop 25, it replaces the cash bail money system. The way it works right now, someone gets arrested, you go to jail, you are being charged, you have to post bail in order to get out of jail until your trial date. The judge has the authority to determine how much your bail is based on your flight risk, right? Here's the thing: for poor people, which i.e. Most Black people, we get arrested, we have to go to a bail bondsman to put up 10%, and you don't get that money back even when you show up to court. If you are wealthy and you put up the bond, you pay the whole thing, you get your money back when you show up to your trial. They want to replace it, to take the money out and replace it with it's called a risk assessment tool. One of the arguments against it is that in other places where they've used it, they found it to be racially biased and socioeconomic biased. So a lot of people are against it. Personally, I'm for it. And the reason why is because, and the only reason why I'm for it is because even because you can always change the algorithm. We got too many smart Black kids that can figure out an algorithm that to make it non-racially biased if we give them the opportunity to do it. But I think once you say, but if this bill goes down, then basically what you're saying is, oh, well, we down with the cash bail system. There's no point putting it back on the ballot, and it's going to continue to keep Black folk in particular locked up for longer and poor. So I just figured, you know, hell, you got a Black dude that work at Google. I'm sure he could figure it out. Anyway, and he's from Compton. Matter of fact, he's from Compton, Anthony Mays.
Shannon, won't that put the bail bondsmen out of business?
It will put them out of business.
Oh. Yeah, because like he said, most Black folks don't have the bail. And if you're innocent, you're in jail until you can be in jail until your trial, and your trial can be put off for years.
Look at Kashif Browder, and 16 years old, accused of stealing a backpack, got sent to Rikers Island. It was so traumatic, he committed suicide.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was concluded, the charges dropped against him later after what, 3 or 4 years after he was in jail all that time, the charges were dropped.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm definitely for that. Even if it is, like you said, Shannon, I'm sorry, but Pookie made, you know, the algorithms can be adjusted. So I think that I'd rather err on that side than to keep someone who is innocent in jail. And then police can arrest you for anything. And the DA they can arrest you for 10 things. The DA has to decide what they're going to hold you on, but they can hold you on one thing and then change the charges later. Change the charges later to fit whatever, you know. So I think
most of the time the charges they change.
Yeah.
They're not.
And you shouldn't be punished because you're poor. To me.
And that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
You have people that are punished because they're poor.
Yeah.
You know, I would say the thing that does strike me is organizations like Black Lives Matter and a few others that are really hung up on the algorithm. And I'm like, that's the least part of it. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but like that, you can fix that.
Yeah.
That's like saying my car don't drive fast enough. If you push the gas harder, it's gonna go.
Right.
They don't want to fix it.
They don't want to fix it. That's the problem.
Also do Shannon, like when we get a new cell phone, right? And you know, my phone is actually sluggish, and then I do the update, so we can do the update.
Yep.
That's not how they do it at all, though. They don't want to. There's no motivation to fix it, because going back to 24 and all that data they're collecting, the data is only valuable because they're feeding into this machine learning in order to, you know, create these algorithms that they say are so accurate. And so if you say the algorithms are not accurate and you need a young Black person like me to come make better algorithms, they're like, no, that won't work. No, for all the reasons, no. You know, so, you know, I think that if we let that go unchecked, it'll continue to be the new Jim Crow that it is.
I think we need to figure out how to get you the contract, Nicole, to redo the algorithm. How about that?
Right, I concur.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
We know a few people.
All right.
That's right.
So thanks everyone for your participation. I'm sure Sandra and Greg, I'll let you give your closing remarks.
Yes. So does anybody, before Greg and I go, have any closing remarks or anything? Because I so appreciate all of you guys. I just love y'all to death. You know how I feel about y'all.
I want to say thank you because
Great presentation.
from what I just read, I was bamboozled because my little proposition, I thought I understood it. But according to this rhetoric on this paper, no. This don't say nothing what y'all just said.
No, and that voter's guide is not enough, but if you look at the end of each proposition, most of them have a reference to possibly a website for an organization that supports it or is against it. Go out to those websites and take a look at those, because you'll find information that's probably more comprehensive and provides clarity.
You know, but then also, like I said at the beginning, you know, as I went through and did some research on 14, the document is about 25 pages.
Yeah.
So imagine
it's a lot.
The average voter is not going to seek out that kind of information to gain a clear understanding. And then of course that voter guide isn't as clear as it could be.
It
No.
ain't clear at all.
Very vague, very vague.
It was extremely vague, and we've been reading these things for years, and I found this to be extremely irritating. It was so vague. It was so vague.
Well, that's what I feel. I feel bamboozled.
But I appreciate Shannon.
Okay.
And
So
everybody.
on the last page of this, I did put some resources.
I mean, Sandy, Nicole, and Sharon, everybody. I appreciate you guys because I was lost.
Okay. So
Oh, one question. So are we just going to the actual polls and drop these in? Because I've seen they've had problems in the actual boxes where they just.
that one in Baldwin Park, I was waiting for that to happen. I said,
Yeah.
I can't remember who I said it to. I think it was my brother a few weeks ago. I said, this is all it's going to take is for one of them to be set on fire, and it's going to create a whole nother problem.
Well, starting this Saturday on the 24th, the early voting sites are going to be open.
Yeah.
And so if you don't feel comfortable dropping in the box, just hold on to it because you can always literally just walk up to the site and you can just drop it off there.
And that's what I usually do. I usually go to my voting site and drop mine off on, because I've been voting by absentee for years. And I usually, if I'm in town election day, I take it to the poll and drop it in the box. Otherwise, I mail it. But this year, I'm dropping it in the box.
And actually, there's some of the polling sites actually, they may have a drive up. So you can, they may have a sign so you don't have to get out your car. You could just literally pull up and give it to an official. Not all of them, I think some of them will.
Yeah,
So
they actually did mail out a voter center information guide. So it has all the voting centers listed in it. I don't know exactly when it came in the mail. I think it was last week that it showed up in the box.
I'll look it up online. I didn't get one like that.
But you know what though? If you look on your ballot that they sent you in the mail, it has the closest places to you. It actually has it in all that paperwork.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but
Is that
some
for the
people
early
don't.
voting?
You'd be surprised how many people don't look at all the stuff that comes with their ballot. So that's why I'm throwing it out there. I actually had somebody message me and ask me how to get another ballot because they lost their ballot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I see it.
So
I have a question for this team. How can this type of format be expanded to reach more people?
Exactly.
Miss Sandra, this was your idea, so I'm gonna let you answer that question.
Well, you know, I'm the most technically challenged person. Y'all all know that. So why would you ask me that question? Y'all already know. Shannon actually has a great one that he did. So Shannon, give them your thing because Shannon covered all of these in detail. Okay. So, well, we're gonna put this on Facebook, Pastor Ron, but Shannon has one that you can tap into as well. So he can give you that.
It's actually it's on my website. I'll put the website in the chat, but it's www.yesicanlead.
It's listed here.
Yeah. So if you just go to that site.
Oops, sorry, but yes, it's listed there on the resource page.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's very light. Yeah.
I'll change the color of the text, but it's there.
Yeah. So there's a Zoom similar to this, so you can hear a discussion. And then also have a ballot guide on there as well. So if you just want a quick synopsis of what each ballot measure is and my recommendation is there as well.
Wow.
Anybody else have any closing remarks?
I do. Thank you for the invitation. It was very informative. We enjoyed. It was very informative.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, so let's.
I just now chimed in. And I thought it was starting at 8, so.
Yeah.
So, but it's recorded. So who is that? So you could.
I'm Aletha. I'm Sophia's mother-in-law.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Why don't you send her to Shannon's site, Miss Sophia?
Okay, well, I'd just like to say thank you guys for tuning in. I thank Shannon, Kathy, Nicole, Sharon. You know, I love you to death. Everybody for participating. Now you guys have more knowledge. Now tell everybody that you know what you've learned. So share that with everybody. Take somebody to the polls. Have dialogue with somebody. and teach your children and and go down your street and get somebody and get their ballots and help them and call them and just do your part, because if all of us do that, then we will expand the knowledge to everybody. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for your participation, and I love you guys so much. Those of you who I can call at the drop of a dime, and you guys are just so willing to share your knowledge, and I appreciate
I
that.
wouldn't say we're always willing, but we try.
Whatever.
Hey, I can't go down my neighborhood because I can't go in my neighborhood because I'm in Trump Nation.
Oh, wow.
There's pop-up merch stand over here.
Huh?
I'm trolling Bakersfield. You know, I used to live in Bakersfield, and so I troll the Bakersfield news sites. And oh, you should see the trolls come after me when I post stuff. It's terrible.
Orange County do what they want to do.
That's where you are. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks,
Thank you guys so
everybody.
much.
Thanks, Sandra.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
That's really good.